1892. Rattlesnake Ridge, Utah Territory. May Dalton stood on the loading dock behind her general store, watching smoke rise on the southern horizon, and knowing the outlaw gang had crossed into the territory at the worst possible time. She was a sharp-witted woman in her late 20s, with rich auburn hair pinned up in a practical bun, bright green eyes that missed nothing, fair complexion dusted with freckles across her nose, slender build, dressed in a deep forest green cotton dress, with cream lace collar and brown leather belt, sturdy leather boots showing beneath her hem. The law was thin here, stretched across too many miles, and she had promised to escort 8-year-old Timothy Marsh to his aunt in Silver Creek before the bank auction next week. A journey that would take them straight through country now crawling with danger. The child's father had died 3 months ago, leaving debts that would see the boy homeless unless May got him to family. But every hired gun and drifter between here and the Canyon Pass seemed to have turned predator overnight. She turned at the sound of boots on wood and found herself face to face with the man the territorial office had assigned as her escort. And her heart sank. Benjamin Reed was a quiet gunsmith, stern on the surface with a reputation for turning down escort jobs more often than he accepted them. And May had heard he worked alone by choice. He was a man in his mid-30s with dark brown wavy hair that touched his collar, intense gray eyes that seemed to catalog every detail, a strong jaw covered by a short, well-kept beard, broad shoulders, and a lean, muscular build that spoke of hard work and harder living. Wearing a tan work shirt with sleeve as rolled to his elbows, dark brown leather vest with brass buttons, dark denim pants worn at the knees, scuffed brown cowboy boots, and a tan cowboy hat pushed back just enough to see his face. He stopped 3 feet from her, looked her over with those calculating gray eyes, and his expression suggested he had already decided this was against his better judgment.
I told the office I work alone.
His voice was low and rough, like gravel under wagon wheels.
I did not ask for you. They assigned you. The child and I leave at dawn whether you ride with us or not.
May met his gaze without flinching, and something shifted in his expression. A flicker of respect or irritation. She could not tell which.
That gang is not playing at robbery. They burned a ranch house 2 days south. You will not make it past Copper Ridge.
Then I suppose it is fortunate the office sent someone.
Benjamin exhaled slowly and looked past her toward the southern horizon, where the smoke still rose.
We leave before dawn. Wagon will be too slow and too visible. We ride horses and pack light. The boy can ride?
He can ride.
Good. Bring water for 4 days and enough food for 5. No trunk. 1 bag.
He turned to leave, then paused.
You carry a gun?
I do.
Can you shoot it?
Well enough.
He nodded once, a sharp, decisive movement, and walked off the dock without another word. May watched him go, her stomach tight with unease that had nothing to do with the journey ahead, and everything to do with the music box hidden in her store, wrapped in oilcloth and tucked into a hat box that no one had opened in 12 years. It had belonged to her mother, a delicate silver piece engraved with roses that played a waltz when wound, and inside its base was a folded paper that could clear the name of a man hanged for murder in 1880. A man everyone believed guilty. A man whose execution had made Marshall Trent Holloway a hero. If that paper ever saw daylight, it would destroy Holloway, and May knew he would kill to keep it buried. But the man's daughter had written to May 6 months ago, begging for any proof her father had been innocent. And May could not let that plea go unanswered. She had promised to bring the music box to Silver Creek, where a lawyer waited. But Holloway had eyes everywhere, and if he learned what she carried, he would see her dead and call it an accident. They left in the dark, before the stars faded. May on a sturdy chestnut mare, Timothy on a reliable gray pony, and Benjamin on a tall black gelding that moved like smoke. The boy was quiet, his small face pale in the lantern light, clutching the saddle horn with both hands. May had the music box wrapped and secured in her saddlebag, the weight of it a constant reminder of the risk she was taking. And she caught Benjamin watching her twice as they rode out of town, his expression unreadable. The trail wound through scrubland and low hills, the summer heat already building even in the early morning, and May felt sweat trickle down her spine beneath her dress. They rode in silence for 2 hours before Benjamin raised a hand, and they stopped at a shallow creek to water the horses. Timothy slid down from his pony and knelt by the water, his small shoulders hunched.
He holding up?
Benjamin stood beside May, his voice low enough that the boy would not hear.
He is scared. His father was everything to him.
He will be safer with family.
If we get him there...
Benjamin glanced at her, and for the first time, she saw something other than sternness in his face, a flicker of something gentle that softened the hard lines around his mouth.
We will get him there.
They mounted again and rode on, the sun climbing higher, the air shimmering with heat. By midday, they reached a place where the trail forked, one path leading through open country, the other winding into a narrow canyon pass that would cut a day off their journey but leave them exposed if anyone waded in the rocks above. Benjamin pulled up and studied both routes, his jaw tight.
The canyon?
It is faster. Also more dangerous.
We cannot afford an extra day. Supplies are tight, and the boy is exhausted.
Benjamin looked at her, then at Timothy, then back at the canyon entrance.
Stay close. If I say ride, you ride and do not look back.
They entered the canyon single file, Benjamin in front, May behind him with Timothy between them. The walls rising steep on both sides, red rock streaked with shadow. The air was cooler here, but May felt her pulse quicken, every instinct screaming that they were being watched. Halfway through, Benjamin stopped abruptly and held up a hand. May pulled her mare to a halt, her heart hammering. Then she heard it, the scrape of boots on stone above them, and a man stepped into view on the canyon rim, silhouetted against the sky. The man wore a dark coat and a wide-brimmed hat, and even from this distance May could see the glint of metal at his hip. He raised one hand in a casual gesture, almost friendly, but the menace in it was unmistakable.
Turn around. Now.
Benjamin's voice was ice, and May heard the click of his revolver leaving its holster.
Timothy, stay behind me.
May positioned her mare to shield the boy, her own hand moving to the small pistol tucked into her belt. The man on the rim laughed, a sound that echoed off the canyon walls. The stranger called down that the canyon was closed, and anyone wanting through would need to pay a toll. His tone lazy, but his posture tense. Benjamin did not answer, just spurred his gelding forward at a sudden gallop, and the man on the rim shouted and vanished. May kicked her mare into motion, grabbing Timothy's pony by the bridle and dragging them both forward, the canyon walls blurring past. Behind them she heard shouts and the crack of a rifle, rock chips exploding from the wall to her left. And then they were through, bursting out into open country. with the canyon mouth falling away behind them. Benjamin did not slow until they were a mile out, the horses blowing hard, and when he finally pulled up, his face was grim.
They were testing us, seeing if we would fold.
Who were they?
Does it matter? They know we are out here now.
May looked back at the canyon, her hands shaking on the reins, and Timothy was crying quietly, his small face buried against his pony's neck. She dismounted and went to him, lifting him down and holding him until the tears stopped. And when she looked up, Benjamin was watching her with an expression she could not read, something almost tender beneath the hard exterior. They made camp that night in a shallow depression, surrounded by scrub brush. No fire, eating cold biscuits and dried meat while the stars came out overhead. Timothy fell asleep quickly, wrapped in a blanket between them, and May sat with her back against her saddle, staring into the dark.
You are not just escorting that boy.
Benjamin's voice came out of the darkness, quiet, but certain. May went still.
What do you mean?
You are carrying something. I have been watching you check your saddlebag every hour. Whatever it is, it matters enough that you are willing to risk your life.
May considered lying, but something in his voice told her he would see through it.
It is not your concern.
If it puts the boy in danger, it is my concern.
It does not.
Then why do you keep looking over your shoulder like someone is hunting you?
May turned to face him, though she could barely see his features in the starlight.
Because someone is...
The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken questions.
Tell me.
I carry proof that an innocent man was hanged 12 years ago. Proof that the marshal who made his name on that execution lied. If he finds out, he will kill me.
Benjamin was quiet for a long moment.
Marshal Holloway.
You know him.
Everyone knows him. He is ambitious and mean. Why are you carrying proof?
Because the man's daughter asked me to. Because no one else would. Because it is the right thing to do.
Right things get people killed.
Then I will die doing what is right.
She heard him shift, his boots scraping on hard ground.
You are reckless.
And you are a coward, who only takes jobs he can walk away from.
The words came out sharper than she intended, and she regretted them instantly. But Benjamin did not rise to the bait. Instead, he laughed, a low, rough sound that held no humor.
You are right. I am a coward. I watched my brother die because I was too slow, and I swore I would never care enough to fail again.
May felt the air leave her lungs.
I am sorry.
Do not be. It was a long time ago.
But his voice said it was not, and May understood then why he worked alone, why he built walls around himself that no one could breach. They sat in silence after that, the night stretching long and quiet around them. And May found herself thinking not about the music box or the danger ahead, but about the man across from her and the pain he carried like a second skin. They rode out before dawn, the air cold and sharp, Timothy silent on his pony. The land changed as they traveled, scrubland giving way to rockier terrain, mesas rising in the distance. By mid-morning they reached a small settlement, barely more than a trading post and a handful of shacks, and Benjamin insisted they stop to resupply. May waited with Timothy outside while Benjamin went in, and she was watching the trail behind them when a man approached, well-dressed in a dark suit and polished boots, a charming smile on his face that did not reach his eyes. The stranger introduced himself as Carmine Kincaid, a gunfighter for hire, his voice smooth and his manner easy. But May felt every instinct screaming danger. He tipped his hat and asked if she was traveling alone, and when she said no, he smiled wider and said he was glad to hear it, because a woman as lovely as her should not be unprotected in such dangerous country. His gaze dropped to her saddlebag, lingered there just a moment too long, and May felt ice flood her veins.
We are well protected. Thank you for your concern.
Kincaid's smile did not waver. He remarked that he had heard she was heading to Silver Creek, and that the route was treacherous this time of year, full of bandits and desperate men. He offered his services as additional escort, his tone friendly. But May saw the calculation in his eyes, and knew he had been sent by someone who wanted to know what she carried. She declined politely, and Kincaid shrugged as if it did not matter. But as he walked away, he glanced back once, and the look he gave her was sharp and assessing, the look of a predator marking prey. Benjamin emerged from the trading post a moment later, carrying a sack of supplies, and stopped when he saw her face.
What happened?
A man named Carmine Kincaid. He knows we are going to Silver Creek.
Benjamin went very still, his jaw tightening.
Kincaid works for whoever pays the most. If he is watching you, someone hired him.
Marshall Holloway.
Probably. We need to move. Now.
They mounted and rode hard, pushing the horses as fast as Timothy could manage, the land blurring past. May kept checking behind them, expecting to see riders on their trail, but the horizon stayed empty. By late afternoon, they reached a place where the trail split again, one path leading towards Silver Creek through open country, the other climbing into the hills where cover was better, but the going slower. Benjamin chose the hills without hesitation, and they climbed steadily as the sun dropped lower, the air cooling, shadows lengthening. They made camp that night in a sheltered hollow surrounded by pine trees, and this time, Benjamin allowed a small fire, the flames crackling softly while Timothy slept nearby. May sat close to the warmth, exhaustion pulling at her, and Benjamin sat across from her, his face half in shadow.
Tell me about the music box.
May looked up, surprised.
How did you know it was a music box?
I saw the shape of it in your bag this morning. You wrapped it carefully. It matters to you.
It belonged to my mother. She died when I was 10.
I am sorry.
She was a good woman. She worked as a housekeeper for a lawyer named Samuel Frost, and one night she overheard a conversation between Frost and Marshall Holloway. They were planning to frame a man for murder, a man named Daniel Kemp, who had refused to sell his land to Holloway. My mother wrote down what she heard and hid the paper in the music box, but she was too afraid to come forward. Holloway had threatened her. He said if she spoke, he would see me sent to an orphanage, and she would never see me again.
She kept silent to protect you.
Yes, and Daniel Kemp hanged for a crime he did not commit.
Benjamin stared into the fire, his expression unreadable.
Your mother did what she had to. Do not judge her for that.
I do not judge her. I judge myself for waiting so long to act.
You were a child.
I am not a child now.
Benjamin looked at her across the flames, and something shifted in his gaze, a softening that made her breath catch.
No, you are not.
They sat in silence after that, the fire burning low, and May felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing, steady and grounding. She had expected him to argue, to tell her she was foolish for risking her life over something that happened 12 years ago. But instead, he simply accepted it, and that acceptance felt like a gift she had not known she needed. The next morning they woke to the smell of smoke on the wind. Not the clean smoke of a campfire, but the thick, acrid smoke of something burning out of control. Benjamin was up before May opened her eyes, standing at the edge of the hollow and staring west, his face grim. May joined him, Timothy still asleep behind them, and saw the black column rising against the sky.
That is Silver Creek.
No.
The timing is wrong. We are still 2 days out.
Could it be the gang?
Or someone clearing obstacles.
May felt her stomach twist.
Holloway.
Maybe. Or Kincaid working for him. Either way, we cannot go straight in. We circle south and approach from the ridge.
They broke camp quickly and rode hard, Timothy clinging to his pony, the smoke growing thicker as they traveled. By midday, they reached a high ridge overlooking Silver Creek, and what May saw made her heart sink. The town was half burned, buildings still smoldering, and in the center of the main street stood a group of riders, maybe a dozen men, all armed. At their head was Marshal Holloway, unmistakable even at this distance, tall and broad-shouldered with a badge glinting on his chest. Beside him was Carmine Kincaid, his dark suit standing out among the rough clothing of the others. Benjamin pulled out a spyglass and studied the scene, his jaw tight.
They are waiting for someone. You.
How could they know we would come here?
Kincaid tracked us. Or Holloway guessed. It does not matter. We cannot go in.
The lawyer is in Silver Creek. He is the only one who can use that paper to clear Kemp's name.
The lawyer is probably dead.
May stared at the burning town, her hands shaking on the reins.
Then what do we do?
We find another way.
But even as he said it, May saw movement on the trail below, riders coming up fast, and she knew they had been spotted.
Ride!
Benjamin spurred his gelding down the far side of the ridge, May and Timothy right behind him, the horses scrambling over loose rock. Behind them she heard shouts and the crack of gunfire, bullets whining past, and then they were in the trees, branches whipping at her face. The world a blur of green and brown. Benjamin led them deeper into the forest, away from the trail, his gelding sure-footed even on the rough terrain. They rode for an hour, maybe more, until the sounds of pursuit faded, and finally, Benjamin pulled up in a clearing beside a narrow stream. Timothy was crying, clinging to his pony's mane, and May dismounted and went to him, pulling him down and holding him tight.
It is all right. We are safe now.
But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Benjamin stood at the edge of the clearing, his revolver drawn, his gaze scanning the trees.
They will keep coming. Holloway will not stop until he has that music box.
Then, we destroy it.
What?
We burn the paper. Without it, Holloway has nothing to fear.
And Daniel Kemp stays a murderer in everyone's memory. His daughter gets nothing.
His daughter gets to live knowing I tried. That is more than she has now.
Benjamin turned to look at her, and his expression was hard.
You do not believe that.
I believe keeping Timothy alive matters more than clearing a dead man's name.
Then why did you come this far?
May felt tears sting her eyes.
Because I am a fool.
No. You are brave. And you do not give up.
He crossed the clearing to her, holstering his revolver, and for the first time since they met, he touched her. his hand closing gently over her shoulder.
We will find a way. I promise.
May looked up at him, at the fierce protectiveness in his face, and felt something shift inside her. Something that had nothing to do with the music box or the danger, and everything to do with the man standing in front of her. The man who had chosen to stay when he could have walked away. She reached up and covered his hand with hers, and for a moment they stood like that, the world narrowing to just the two of them. Then Timothy spoke, his voice small and scared. Miss May, I am hungry. Benjamin stepped back, the moment broken, and May turned to the boy, forcing a smile.
Let us see what we have.
They had hardtack and dried beef in the saddlebags, and a canteen of water from the stream. They sat in the clearing and ate in silence, Timothy between them, the horses cropping grass nearby. May's mind raced. Holloway would not give up. He had too much to lose, and Kincaid was still out there somewhere, tracking them, waiting for his chance. She thought of the paper hidden in the music box, the proof that could clear Daniel Kemp's name and expose Holloway's crime. But at what cost? Timothy's life? Her own? Benjamin's?
There is a town called Bridger's Fork, 2 days south of here. It has a territorial judge. If we can get there, we can hand over the evidence and let the law handle it.
Holloway is the law.
Not in Bridger's Fork. Judge Carver is federal. He does not answer to county marshals.
2 days. Can we make it?
If we ride hard and stay off the main trails.
And if Holloway catches us first?
Then I will deal with him.
There was a coldness in his voice that made May shiver. She had seen Benjamin shoot, had seen the steadiness of his hands, the quiet competence with which he handled his weapons. But she had also seen the gentleness in him, the way he spoke to Timothy, the way he looked at her when he thought she was not watching. She did not want him to become a killer for her sake.
Benjamin, I do not want you to have to kill anyone because of me.
It would not be because of you. It would be because Holloway is a corrupt man who murdered an innocent woman and pinned it on someone else.
But you would be the one pulling the trigger.
I have pulled triggers before, May.
His voice was flat, and May realized she knew almost nothing about him, about where he had come from, or what he had done before settling in Rattlesnake Ridge. She wanted to ask, but the look on his face told her this was not the time. Instead, she reached out and touched his arm.
I trust you.
He looked at her, and something softened in his eyes.
Then trust me to get you and Timothy to Bridger's Fork.
They rode through the afternoon, following game trails and dry creek beds, always heading south. The land grew rougher, the trees thinning out into rocky hills and steep ravines. May's legs ached from hours in the saddle, and Timothy had stopped asking questions, his small face pale with exhaustion. Benjamin pushed them hard, stopping only to water the horses and check their back trail. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, he led them up a narrow canyon to a shallow cave tucked beneath an overhang of red rock. It was barely big enough for the three of them and offered little protection from the wind that had picked up. But it was hidden from view, and Benjamin seemed satisfied. They unsaddled the horses and hobbled them at the mouth of the canyon, then gathered inside the cave. There was no firewood, so they wrapped themselves in saddle blankets and huddled together for warmth. Timothy fell asleep almost immediately, his head on May's lap, and she stroked his hair gently, her thoughts drifting. Benjamin sat across from her, his back against the rock wall, his rifle across his knees. He had been silent for hours, his face unreadable, and May wondered what he was thinking.
Benjamin,
Yes.
where did you learn to shoot like that?
He was quiet for a long moment, and she thought he would not answer. Then, he sighed.
The war. I was 16 when I enlisted. Lied about my age. Spent 3 years in the cavalry, riding with Sheridan. Saw things I wish I had not. Did things I wish I could forget.
I am sorry.
It was a long time ago. After the war, I drifted. Worked as a scout, a deputy, a hired gun. Did not much care where I ended up or what happened to me. Then one day I found myself in Rattlesnake Ridge, and I decided to stop. Opened the shop. Learned to make things instead of breaking them. Thought maybe I could be someone different.
You are someone different.
Am I? Today I shot 2 men.
To save Timothy and me.
That does not change what I did.
It changes everything.
He looked at her across the dim cave, and May saw the pain in his eyes, the weight of old guilt and old memories. She wanted to go to him, to take his hand, to tell him that he was not the man he had been, that she saw him for who he was now. But Timothy was asleep in her lap, and the moment felt too fragile, too raw.
You are a good man, Benjamin Reed. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise.
He held her gaze for a heartbeat, then looked away, but May thought she saw the faintest hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. They sat in silence as the last light faded and the stars came out, cold and bright in the desert sky. May dozed fitfully, waking every time Timothy stirred or the horses shifted. Once, in the deep hours of the night, she woke to find Benjamin standing at the mouth of the cave, silhouetted against the starlight, his rifle in his hands. She watched him for a long time, the stillness of him, the quiet vigilance, and felt something she had not felt in years, a sense of safety, of being protected, of not being alone. When morning came, they were on the move again before the sun cleared the horizon. Benjamin set a brutal pace, pushing the horses as hard as he dared, and by midday they had left the canyon country behind and emerged onto a broad plain dotted with sagebrush and juniper. In the distance, May could see a line of cottonwoods marking the course of a river, and beyond that, faint against the southern sky, the rooftops of a town.
Bridger's Fork. We will be there by tonight.
Do you think Holloway is behind us or ahead of us?
Both, if he is smart. He will have sent men ahead to watch the town.
Then, how do we get in?
Carefully.
They stopped at the river to rest the horses and fill the canteens. Timothy waded into the shallows, splashing water on his face and laughing. And for a moment, May let herself believe they were just travelers, ordinary people on an ordinary journey. But then she saw Benjamin scanning the horizon, his hand never far from his revolver, and the illusion shattered. They followed the river downstream, staying in the cover of the cottonwoods, until they could see the outskirts of Bridger's Fork, a collection of clapboard buildings and dusty streets. Benjamin pulled up and dismounted, motioning for May to do the same.
Wait here with Timothy. I am going to scout the town.
Alone?
I will draw less attention that way. If I am not back in an hour, ride west. There is a ranch called the Double Bar K about 10 miles from here. Ask for a man named Caleb Stone. Tell him Benjamin Reed sent you. He will help.
Benjamin. Wait.
She caught his arm, and he turned to face her. May realized how close they were standing, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, the scar on his jawline, the way his gaze softened when he looked at her.
Be careful.
Always.
He touched her cheek, just the briefest brush of his fingers, and then he was gone, slipping through the trees toward the town. May stood there, her heart pounding, her skin tingling where he had touched her, and wondered when everything had changed. When the quiet gunsmith who barely spoke had become the man she could not imagine living without. She settled Timothy in the shade and sat down to wait, her eyes fixed on the distant buildings, willing Benjamin to return safely. The hour passed slowly, each minute stretching into an eternity, and just when May was beginning to fear the worst, she saw him coming back through the trees, moving fast. He swung up onto his gelding without a word and motioned for her to mount.
Holloway has men in town. 3 that I saw, maybe more. They are watching the judge's office and the hotel.
Then what do we do?
We go around them. Judge Carver lives in a house on the east side of town. If we can get to him directly, we can hand over the evidence before Holloway knows we are there.
They circled wide around Bridger's Fork, staying in the river bottom until they reached the eastern edge of town, then dismounted and led the horses up a narrow alley between 2 houses. Benjamin moved with the silent confidence of a man who had done this kind of thing before, and May followed, her heart in her throat, Timothy's hand gripped tight in hers. The judge's house was a neat white clapboard with a picket fence and a rose garden in front. Benjamin knocked on the door, his revolver hidden but ready, and after a moment, an elderly man in shirt sleeves answered. He looked at Benjamin, then at May and Timothy, and his eyes narrowed.
Judge Carver, my name is Benjamin Reed. We need your help.
The judge studied them for a long moment, then stepped aside. The judge said to come in quickly and shut the door behind them. Inside, the house was dim and cool, the walls lined with bookshelves and legal volumes. The judge led them into a small study and gestured for them to sit. The judge asked what this was about, his voice clipped and businesslike. May opened the saddlebag and took out the music box, her hands shaking. She set it on the desk and opened it, the familiar melody playing softly as she pulled out the hidden paper and handed it to the judge. He unfolded it and read in silence, his expression growing darker with every line. The judge said this was a confession. May explained that it was written by Amelia Trent before she died, naming Marshall Holloway as her killer and clearing Daniel Camp of the crime. The judge looked up sharply and asked how May had come by this. She told him about her mother, about the music box, about Holloway's threats and Kincaid's pursuit. When she finished, the judge sat back in his chair, his face grave. The judge said this was enough to reopen the case and issue a warrant for Holloway's arrest. But he warned that Holloway would not go quietly, and if his men were already in town, there would be trouble. Benjamin said they understood the risks. The judge nodded and stood, saying he would send for the territorial marshal immediately and have Holloway taken into custody. May felt a wave of relief so powerful it made her dizzy. It was over. After everything, it was finally over. But then, the door to the study burst open, and Carmine Kincaid stepped inside, his revolver drawn and leveled at Benjamin's chest.
Do not move.
Kincaid's voice was soft, almost conversational, but there was no mistaking the menace in it. Behind him, 2 more men crowded into the doorway, both armed. The judge half rose from his chair, but Kincaid waved him back down. Kincaid said to sit down and be quiet, or things would get messy. He looked at May, his eyes cold and calculating, and told her to hand over the music box. May clutched it to her chest, shaking her head. Kincaid smiled, a thin, humorless smile, and said she was making this harder than it needed to be. Benjamin shifted slightly, his hand hovering near his revolver, and Kincaid's gun swung toward him. Kincaid warned Benjamin not to be a hero. He said he had no quarrel with the gunsmith, but he would kill him if he had to. Benjamin's voice was calm and cold, as he said Kincaid would have to. Kincaid's smile faded, and for a moment the room was utterly silent, the air thick with tension. Then Timothy, who had been standing frozen beside May, suddenly bolted, running for the door. One of Kincaid's men grabbed for him, and in that instant Benjamin moved, his hand a blur as he drew his revolver and fired. The shot was deafening in the small room, and the man who had reached for Timothy staggered back, clutching his shoulder. Kincaid swung his gun toward Benjamin, but May was faster, swinging the music box with all her strength and catching him across the side of the head. Kincaid went down hard, his revolver clattering across the floor, and the second man in the doorway raised his hands, his face pale. Benjamin kept his revolver trained on him, his voice steady, as he told the man to drop his gun and get on the floor. The man obeyed, and Benjamin kicked the weapons out of reach, then glanced at May.
"Are you all right?"
May nodded, unable to speak, her whole body shaking with adrenaline. Timothy ran to her, and she pulled him close, burying her face in his hair. The judge was already on his feet, shouting for his clerk, and within moments the house was swarming with deputies and townsfolk drawn by the gunshot. Kincaid and his men were dragged out in handcuffs, and the judge took possession of the music box and the confession, promising May that justice would be done. May barely heard him. All she could see was Benjamin, standing in the corner of the study, his revolver still in his hand, his face drawn and pale. She crossed the room to him and took his hand, and he looked down at her, his eyes searching hers.
It is over.
Is it?
Yes. Holloway will be arrested. Kincaid is in custody. Daniel Kemp's name will be cleared. It is over.
Benjamin holstered his revolver and let out a long breath, and May saw the tension drain out of him, saw the weight lift from his shoulders. He squeezed her hand, and for the first time since they met, he smiled. A real smile that reached his eyes and made her heart stutter.
Then what happens now?
Now we go home.
The judge arranged for them to stay the night in Bridger's Fork, under guard in case Holloway made a move. But by morning word had come that the territorial marshal had arrested Holloway without incident, and that he was being held pending trial. May sent a telegram to Daniel Kemp's daughter in Santa Fe, telling her the news, and received a reply within hours, filled with gratitude and tears. Timothy's aunt arrived on the afternoon stage, a kind-faced woman who wept when she saw the boy and thanked May and Benjamin over and over. May watched them ride away in a hired wagon, feeling both relieved and strangely empty. She had kept her promise. Timothy was safe. Daniel Kemp's name would be cleared. But now, standing in the dusty street of Bridger's Fork, with her saddlebags over her shoulder, she did not know what came next. Benjamin stood beside her, his gelding's reins in his hand, and he looked as uncertain as she felt.
I suppose you will be heading back to Rattlesnake Ridge.
I suppose so. The store will not run itself.
No, I suppose it will not.
They stood in awkward silence, and May felt something tighten in her chest. A sudden, desperate certainty that if she let him walk away now, she would regret it for the rest of her life.
Benjamin,
Yes,
I do not want to go back alone.
He turned to look at her, and May saw the hope flare in his eyes, saw the way his whole face changed.
what are you saying?
I am saying that somewhere between Rattlesnake Ridge and here, I stopped thinking of you as the quiet gunsmith who fixed my father's rifle. I started thinking of you as the man I want beside me. Not just for danger and gunfights, but for everything. For ordinary days and quiet evenings. For the rest of my life, if you will have me.
Benjamin stared at her, and for a moment May thought she had made a terrible mistake, that she had misread everything. Then he dropped the reins and crossed the space between them in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms and kissing her with a fierceness that took her breath away. May wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back, pouring everything she had been too afraid to say into that kiss. And when they finally broke apart, both breathless and laughing, Benjamin rested his forehead against hers.
May Dalton, I have been half in love with you since the day you walked into my shop and told me you needed a rifle cleaned. I just did not think I had the right to say so.
You have the right. You have always had the right.
He kissed her again, slower this time, tender and full of promise. And May felt the last of her fear and doubt melt away. They rode back to Rattlesnake Ridge together, side by side, and arrived just as the sun was setting, painting the ridge and the distant mountains in shades of gold and crimson. The town looked the same as it had a week ago, but everything felt different. May dismounted in front of the general store and looked up at the faded sign, at the windows that needed washing and the porch that needed sweeping, and felt a surge of affection for the place. It was home, and now it would be Benjamin's home too. 3 days later, they were married by the traveling preacher in the same church where May's parents had wed 30 years before. The whole town turned out, and May wore her mother's dress, altered to fit, and carried a bouquet of wildflowers that Benjamin had picked that morning. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Benjamin kissed her with such tenderness that May felt tears slip down her cheeks. And when she looked out at the gathered townsfolk, she saw more than a few of them wiping their eyes as well. Afterward, there was a celebration in the street, with fiddle music and dancing, and a long table laden with food that the neighbors had brought. May danced with Benjamin until her feet ached, and then they slipped away, leaving the party still going strong, and walked down to the river that ran along the southern edge of town. The water was low this time of year, just a trickle over smooth stones, and the cottonwoods along the bank rustled in the evening breeze. They stood at the water's edge, hand in hand, and looked back at the town, at the lights glowing in the windows, and the faint sound of laughter and music drifting on the air.
Are you happy?
Happier than I have ever been.
Even though you are stuck in a tiny town running a general store with a stubborn woman?
Especially because of that.
May laughed and leaned into him, and Benjamin wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. She thought of everything they had been through, the danger and the fear and the long days on the trail, and she thought of everything still to come, the ordinary days and quiet evenings, the life they would build together. It would not always be easy. There would be hard times and challenges, long winters and dry summers, The endless work of running a store and a gunsmith shop in a town that was still raw and rough around the edges. But they would face it together, and that made all the difference. Colorized late 1800s American West photograph. Natural light, gentle contrast, slightly soft focus, subtle film grain, faint dust/scratches, slight vignetting, no text, no watermark. Maintaining exact character consistency from previous images. Rugged, handsome cowboy around 35-40, with dark brown hair, strong jawline, wearing brown leather vest over tan shirt and dark cowboy hat. Holding stunning, beautiful woman in late 20s, with chestnut brown hair and a practical bun. Wearing her mother's altered wedding dress, in tender protective embrace at river's edge. Evening, soft twilight glow, with last traces of golden sunset. Smooth river stones and trickling water in foreground. Rustling cottonwood trees along bank and midground. Distant town lights and faint silhouettes of celebrating townsfolk in background.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking that I chose right.
Chose right?
I chose you. And I chose not to surrender myself in the process. I am still May Dalton. I am still running my store. I am still the woman who will argue with you when you are wrong and stand beside you when you are right. But now, I am also your wife. And that feels like the best choice I have ever made.
Benjamin smiled and kissed her forehead, and May closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his body against hers, the steady beat of his heart, the quiet strength that had seen them through everything. Behind them, the town celebrated, and ahead of them, the river flowed on, carrying the last light of day toward the distant horizon. They stood together at the water's edge, the man who had learned to be gentle and the woman who had learned to trust. And in that moment, May knew with absolute certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. And that would be enough. She risked everything to clear a dead man's name. Rattlesnake Ridge, 1892. May Dalton, a sharp-witted general store owner, discovers a hidden confession in her mother's music box that could clear an innocent man's name and expose a corrupt marshal. When the marshal sends a ruthless gunfighter to silence her, May must escort a young boy across dangerous territory with only a quiet gunsmith as her reluctant protector. As bullets fly and trust deepens, May and Benjamin face impossible choices between justice and survival, truth and safety. A gripping Wild West romance of courage, danger, and a love forged in the fire of pursuit. Subscribe for more thrilling historical romances. Wild West romance, historical romance, 1890s Western, cowboy love story, frontier romance, gunfighter Western, corrupt marshal story, dangerous journey, protector romance, Utah territory, wagon trail adventure, music box mystery, wrongful conviction, outlaw pursuit, Western suspense, cowboy gunsmith, general, store owner, escort mission, late summer Western, survival romance, justice and love, hidden confession, territorial drama, colorized late 1800s American West photograph. Natural light, gentle contrast, slightly soft focus, subtle film grain, faint dust/scratches, slight vignetting, no text, no watermark. Stunning, beautiful woman in late 20s with chestnut brown hair and a practical bun, wearing dusty green traveling dress. Fear and determination in her bright eyes, clutching ornate music box to her chest, while rugged, handsome cowboy, around 35 to 40, with dark brown hair, strong jawline, protective intensity in his expression, wearing brown leather vest over tan shirt and dark cowboy hat, shields her with his body, his hand on his holstered revolver. Late afternoon, dramatic warm golden light, with dust swirling in air. Wooden storefront porch, railing info Timothy, pointed toward the trees on the far side of the clearing.
Someone is out there.
Benjamin drew his revolver again and moved to put himself between May and the trees. For a long moment, there was silence, and then a figure stepped out of the shadows, hands raised. It was a woman, middle-aged, wearing a faded calico dress and a tattered shawl, her face gaunt and lined with hardship.
Who are you?
The woman stopped at the edge of the clearing.
My name is Clara Kemp. I am looking for May Dalton.
May felt her breath catch. She stepped forward, despite Benjamin's warning gesture.
I am May Dalton.
Clara's eyes filled with tears.
You have something that belonged to my father. A paper he hid before he died.
How did you find me?
I heard Holloway talking in the saloon. He said you had proof my father was innocent, and he was going to make sure no one ever saw it. I followed his men.
May pulled the music box from her saddlebag and opened it, taking out the folded paper. She crossed the clearing and handed it to Clara, who unfolded it with shaking hands and read, tears streaming down her face.
He wrote this the night before he was hanged. He knew Holloway would frame him, but he had no proof. So he hid this confession, hoping someday someone would find it.
Your father was innocent. Marshall Holloway killed that rancher himself, then pinned it on Daniel to cover his tracks.
Clara looked up at May, her face twisted with grief and rage.
What can we do with this now? Holloway is the law. No one will believe us. We take it to the territorial judge in Salt Lake City. He is no friend of Holloway's.
Benjamin stepped forward, his voice firm.
That is a 4-day ride, and Holloway's men are already on our trail. We will never make it.
Then, we go to the bank auction tomorrow. Half the territory will be there. We read the confession in front of everyone. Holloway cannot silence all of us.
He can try.
Then we make sure he fails.
Benjamin looked at her for a long moment, and then he nodded.
All right. We go back to town.
They rode through the night, Clara on May's horse behind her, Timothy on his pony between May and Benjamin. The moon rose full and bright, lighting the trail, and by dawn they were back at Rattlesnake Ridge, the town just waking. May took Clara and Timothy to the boarding house, then went with Benjamin to his workshop. He barred the door and checked his revolver, reloading it with fresh cartridges. Holloway will come for us before the auction.
Let him come.
May stood at the window, watching the street. Her hands were steady now, her fear replaced by cold determination. An hour later, Holloway appeared with Kincaid and 3 other men riding up to the workshop. Benjamin opened the door before they could knock, stepping out into the morning sun, May right behind him.
Marshall, what can I do for you?
Holloway dismounted, his face red with anger.
You have something that belongs to me. Hand it over.
The confession belongs to Clara Kemp, and the whole town is going to hear it.
Holloway's hand moved toward his gun, but Benjamin was faster, his revolver clearing leather in a heartbeat. Kincaid tensed, but Benjamin's gaze never wavered.
Do not.
People were gathering now, drawn by the commotion. Shopkeepers, ranchers, families stopping to watch. May raised her voice so everyone could hear.
Daniel Kemp was innocent. Marshall Holloway framed him for murder to hide his own crime. We have proof.
She held up the paper, and Clara stepped out of the boarding house, Timothy beside her. Clara took the confession from May and began to read aloud, her voice shaking but clear. The crowd listened in stunned silence as she read her father's words, his account of Holloway's corruption, his desperate hope that the truth would one day come to light. When Clara finished, the silence stretched, and then a rancher stepped forward.
I always knew there was something wrong about that trial.
Others nodded, voices rising in agreement. Holloway looked around, his face pale, and then he turned and mounted his horse. Kincaid and the others followed, riding out of town without another word. May watched them go, relief flooding through her. Clara came to her, taking her hand.
Thank you. You gave me back my father's name.
He deserved the truth.
That evening, May and Benjamin walked down to the river, the sun setting behind the ridge, painting the sky gold and crimson. The town was behind them now, quiet and peaceful. Benjamin stopped at the water's edge and turned to face her.
You could have walked away. You could have destroyed that paper and been safe.
I could have, but I would not have been able to live with myself.
You are remarkable, May Dalton.
May felt her cheeks flush.
And you are a good man, Benjamin Reed.
He stepped closer, his hand reaching up to cup her cheek, his touch gentle.
I want to stay. If you will have me.
May smiled, her heart full.
I will have you.
He kissed her then, slow and tender, and May felt the last of her walls come down. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his.